During the final moments of Frodo's quest, the ring's corruption had grown too strong for him to resist it, and in his weakness, he chose to keep the ring, rather than throw it in the fires of Mount Doom. Luckily, this crisis was averted by Gollum's betrayal, and over the years, many people have debated whether Frodo ultimately failed in his mission, since his will faltered when it mattered the most. Hey guys, it's Carl here, and in today's video, we'll be discussing and answering this question, using the letters that Tolkien has left us. So according to Tolkien, Frodo did fail in a literal sense, for his quest was to destroy the One Ring, and he failed to do so himself. However, we're told that his task was doomed to fail, and it was too great for any living being to handle. For a more powerful person than Frodo would have fallen to the ring's temptations earlier, while a weaker person would have no hope whatsoever of being able to resist the One Ring in its final moments. There were very few people alive, if any, that could have made it as far as Frodo did, and so we really shouldn't underestimate what an impossible task lay before him. Now Tolkien also wrote that this question regarding Frodo's failure becomes much more complicated when we discuss whether it was a moral failure or not. According to Tolkien and his philosophy, people sometimes find themselves in abnormal and tough situations that would be so difficult and would require so much sacrifice that they would be more than a person could handle, both in mind and body. And in such a situation, they would clearly be doomed to fail, since they would have reached their limits. Though Tolkien argues that as long as they gave it their all, it wouldn't be considered a moral failure, since that failure was not by choice or due to some desire to be relieved of their burden, but rather because that person would have reached the peak of his limits and they were left with no other choice. In Frodo's case, it took all of his strength of will and of body to reach that point in Mount Doom, and by doing so he reached his limit, and he created a situation in which his quest could still be achieved, even if he wasn't the direct agent in its completion. To summarize this from Tolkien's point of view, moral failure could only occur if a person's effort or endurance falls short of their limits, and in Frodo's case, he knew that he was inadequate to complete the task that lay ahead of him, yet he chose to carry this burden anyway, for his duty was to go as far as possible while his strength of mind and of body persisted. We must also keep in mind that when the One Ring was so close to its place of origin, its power and temptation were greatest, and Frodo was already unable to throw the ring in his fire in Bag End before he started his quest, and so it's clear that this task was much more than he could handle, even at the greatest of his strength. Now Tolkien also wrote that he believes that the power of evil in this world can't be completely resisted by incarnate creatures, which clearly stems from his theological beliefs. And when we are put in a difficult situation that is beyond our power to handle, our salvation and chance of success would lie in something that is apparently unconnected, which would be our capacity for mercy and humility. In Frodo's case, this mercy was the moment he pitied Gollum and chose to spare his life, for it was a choice that would have seemed like an illogical thing to do, since most people would have been able to tell that Gollum was very likely to betray Frodo eventually, and this moment of pity and mercy dictated Gollum's fate, and it created an opportunity for Frodo's quest to be achieved by giving Gollum the chance to try and take the ring from Frodo in Mount Doom and fall in its fires. Now obviously, Gollum's attack upon Frodo was still an evil deed in itself, though it was also the most beneficial thing that could have happened to Frodo, for it allowed him to complete his quest indirectly through his actions and be saved and relieved from the burden of the One Ring. Ironically, the mercy he showed Gollum would prove to be a mercy for himself, a chance for him to redress his failures. I'd like to make two more points before ending this video. Firstly, it seems that both Gandalf and Aragorn acknowledged that Frodo hadn't failed morally in his quest, for they knew the full story of the ring's final moments in Mount Doom, as Frodo didn't try and hide it from them, yet he was still hailed, honored, and celebrated as a hero, and all of this was deserved, for in the process he had sacrificed everything and reached his limits. I hate to end this video on a sad note, since I already think that Frodo's suffering and his inevitable failure are a tragic topic to discuss. Yet what I find saddest of all is that Frodo eventually felt guilty, and he felt that he had failed partially. And when his nightmares and past wounds would come to haunt him, he would have logical thoughts and feelings about himself. He saw himself and everything that he's done as a broken failure, and there were moments when he was tempted to regret that the One Ring was destroyed and to desire that it still existed. One such example is when he awoke from a sickness caused by a past wound, and he exclaimed, "It is gone forever, and now all is dark and empty." Finally, I'd like to remind you all that all of this comes from the letters of Tolkien, and none of it is my own opinion. I feel he gives such a detailed account of all of it that it is more than an adequate answer, and my opinion would muddle it up and matter much less than that of the author, who knows his world and characters best. Anyway friends, this wraps up today's video, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested, check out our Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Instagram, Discord, and some of our affiliate links in the video description. And if you enjoyed this video, leave a like and subscribe to join our fellowship today. I hope to see you all in my next video, where together we'll once again explore the magical world and lore of Middle-earth.